Hello and welcome to video lecture series in political science. Today we are going to discuss chapter 3 titled as US Hegemony in World Politics from your textbook Contemporary World Politics. For understanding, we have divided this chapter into 4 parts. So far in the previous part, we have discussed what is hegemony or the concept of hegemony, hegemony in international relations. We discussed about struggle for power between various nations, the US as a hegemon and unipolarity after the fall or collapse of the USSR, and military capacity of the US as compared to the other countries. Today we will begin with the Iraq war and also discuss about some of the other military operations or interventions carried by the US. Now, as we have already started discussing the Iraq war, what had happened, let us look at the background. During August 1990, Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein captured the neighboring Kuwait. The leaders from Saudi Arabia and Egypt asked Western countries to intervene. The United Nations asked Saddam Hussein to quit Iraq, but Saddam Hussein refused to do so. After a series of failed talks, it was decided by the UN to liberate Iraq by using force or by sending military. A coalition military force of more than 34 countries was led by the United States that fought against the Iraqi forces to liberate Kuwait. As you can see, Kuwait in the map surrounded by Saudi Arabia and Iraq. And the 34 nations, this particular map shows the nations that were part of the coalition force in the Gulf War, the countries which are blue in color. And you can see Pakistan and Afghanistan and Bangladesh, all 3 neighboring countries of India were part of this coalition force. Although Saddam Hussein had remarked this war that it will be a mother of all wars, he was so confident of his win, but after 42 days of relentless attack by allied coalition, both in air and on ground, the Iraqi forces were quickly defeated and they were forced to withdraw from Kuwait. The then US President George Bush declared a ceasefire on February 28th. By that time, Iraqi forces in Kuwait had either surrendered or they had fled. Now look at some of the pictures of war. This is an air attack being carried out during the Operation Desert Storm. You can see these fighter planes attacking the targets below. Now this is called as the highway of death, and you can see a large number of vehicles all strewn around which were attacked by the coalition US led forces. These are some of the bodies of the Iraqi forces. In this picture you can see US soldier walking past the deadly remains of Iraqi soldiers. The United States and the United Nations gave several public justifications for the involvement in this conflict. The most prominent justification was the Iraqi violation of Kuwaiti territorial integrity. That is, Iraq had violated the territorial integrity of Kuwait. That is, it should not have entered. However, although it was a UN operation, yet it was dominated by the US. It became clear to the world during the first Gulf War that American military capabilities and technological advancement is far more superior than that of any other nation in the world. This war was touted as a computer war. Why? Because the US used smart bombs that were computer guided and they rarely missed the target. The entire world watched this war live on their television sets at home, as if a war-related video game is being played. Later in January 1993, Bill Clinton, William Jefferson Clinton of Democratic Party became President of the United States of America. Despite winning the Gulf War, the senior George Bush lost the presidential election. In comparison to George Bush, Bill Clinton raised domestic issues during his election campaign for the president. Bill Clinton won 2 consecutive, which means 2 times in a series, elections and remained president of the US till 2001. During the Clinton era, America remained engaged more with its internal affairs as compared to getting involved in the international issues. the American foreign policy during these years focused more upon the soft issues like promotion of democracy, environmental negotiations, negotiations on the world trade system, international peace, etc. These are called as the soft issues, rather than concentrating on hard politics, which is involving issues of military might, war or intervention. But even in the soft areas, the US dominated other countries and had its own way. Moreover, one can also say that these years did not remain very dry in terms of hard politics. There were occasions during which the US military was involved in conflict resolution, or the US used force or military power in certain areas or in certain regions. One such instance happened during 1999, when the joint forces of NATO countries led by the US bombarded the targets in the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia during the Kosovo War. Now, what was this war? This military operation was not authorized by the United Nations. It was also the first time when the NATO used military force without the approval of the United Nations Security Council. The force was also used against a sovereign nation that did not pose a threat to any of the members of NATO. As you can see in this map, Kosovo is a small province surrounded by Macedonia and Serbia on the other hand. This is former Yugoslavia, which was broken down into 6 independent nations. This attack came in response to a new wave of ethnic cleansing launched by the Serbian forces against the Kosovo Albanians. The NATO carried out air strikes against the Yugoslavia with the bombing of Serbian military positions in the Yugoslav province of Kosovo. This operation continued for about 2 months, and on 10th of June, NATO raid ended when Serbia agreed to a peace agreement calling for the withdrawal of the Serb forces from Kosovo and also agreeing to station NATO peacekeeping forces or troops in its territory. Yet another significant US military operation happened during the Clinton era. Now, this time it was in response to the attack on the US embassies in Nairobi, capital of Kenya, and Dar es Salaam, the capital of neighboring Tanzania. What happened on 7th of August 1998, the embassies of the US in the East African cities of Dar es Salaam and Nairobi were bombarded, simultaneously killing thousands of people. 7th of August was the 8th anniversary of the arrival of American forces in Saudi Arabia, and these bombings were widely believed to have been carried out in revenge or taken as a revenge action by Al-Qaeda, an Islamist terrorist organization influenced by the extremist Islamist ideas. It brought Al-Qaeda and its members, particularly Osama bin Laden and Ayman al-Zawahiri, to the attention of American government for the first time. Look at some of these pictures of the attack that was carried out on the US embassies in Nairobi and in Dar es Salaam. This is the rescue operation which is going on after the attack. This is the remains of the building of the US embassy, as you can see in the picture. Now, within a few days of attack on the US embassies, in response to the bombings, President Bill Clinton ordered Operation Infinite Reach. What was Operation Infinite Reach? It was a series of cruise missile attacks on Al-Qaeda hideouts and targets in Sudan and Afghanistan. The missiles were launched against bin Laden's terrorist training camps in Afghanistan, and the attack was also made on a pharmaceutical plant in Sudan, where it was alleged that bin Laden was making and distributing chemical weapons. But it is also alleged that some of the civilian areas were also targeted during the US military offensive, which were not connected to terrorist activities or which were not part of the terrorist organization. Now, there were allegations and counter allegations. But in the course of time, something unimaginable happened on 11th of September 2001, which is also popularly called as 9/11. What happened? That day, around 19 hijackers from different nationalities hijacked 4 commercial planes shortly after taking off from various airports in America. And what did they do? The Al-Qaeda terrorists who had hijacked the passenger planes carried out coordinated suicide attacks by hitting the World Trade Center in New York City. Both the North Tower and the South Tower of the World Trade Center were attacked by the 2 hijacked planes within a gap of 15 minutes only. 2 of these planes, American Airlines Flight 11 and United Airlines Flight 175, were crashed into the North and South Towers respectively. A 3rd plane crashed into the Pentagon building in Arlington, that is where the US Defense Headquarters is located in Washington DC. The 4th plane could not reach its target because it crashed into a field in Pennsylvania. Why? Because passengers and crew, they attempted to take control of the plane from the hijackers. They put up a fight against the hijack. Nearly 3,000 people on ground and everybody on board on all these 4 planes were killed in the attack. These are some of the pictures of the attack. As you can see, one of the tower has already been attacked and the 2nd plane is going to hit the other tower. These are the 2 World Trade Towers which were attacked. This is another side of the picture. These are the mangled remains of both the towers after they were completely destroyed. This is the picture, an aerial view of the Pentagon. As you can see, the building is in the shape of a pentagon and one of its side has been hit by one of the planes. And this is the place where the plane had hit the Pentagon building. These attacks were compared to the Japanese attack on the Pearl Harbor in 1941 on US during the Second World War. America had never been attacked like in this manner in last many decades. In terms of lives lost, this was the most severe attack on American soil since the country was founded in 1776. The world was shocked to see the pictures and the scale of devastation that has happened after these attacks. How did the US respond to these attacks? The US responded to these attacks very aggressively. George W. Bush Jr. was the president of US at this point of time. Unlike the former president Bill Clinton, George Bush had much harder and aggressive view about the interest of the US. He was not hesitant to even use force to safeguard the interest of the Americans. After all, this attack was not just an attack on the United States, it was an act of terror, and people of many nationalities and countries lost their lives in this attack. The NATO Council declared the attack on the United States was an attack on all the NATO nations. The US launched an offensive called as Operation Enduring Freedom against all those who were suspected to be behind the attack on the World Trade Center and other targets which were destroyed in the attack. As a part of global war on terror, America attacked Al-Qaeda and Taliban regime in Afghanistan, where it was suspected that Osama bin Laden is hiding. The attacks led to fall of Taliban regime in Afghanistan. But America could not catch Osama bin Laden until the year 2011, 10 years after the attack. As these terrorists operate from unknown and undisclosed location, it was very difficult for the Americans to wipe them out completely. And after 10 years of chase, bin Laden was killed in Abbottabad in Pakistan on 2nd of May 2011 in the middle of the night in a very secret and well coordinated strike by the US commandos. The face of terror was killed. After spending millions of dollars on war on terror and secret chase, the US could kill Osama bin Laden, the man behind the terror attacks on America. But did killing of Osama bin Laden bring an end to the terror? No. In the last 2 decades, we have seen a massive rise in the number of terror-related strikes by various outfits for some reason or the other, in which thousands of innocent people have lost their lives. Since then, Al-Qaeda is involved in a number of small to medium-sized attacks all over the world. Despite heavy use of force, Al-Qaeda and other terrorist organizations are still present, and they are recruiting more and more people into their organizations. While revenging the attack on World Trade Center, the US forces made a large number of arrests of suspected terrorists from various places world over. And at times these arrests were made without even the knowledge of the national government that such an arrest is being made on their soil. These prisoners were detained at a secret prison. One such prison is existing at Guantanamo Bay. It is the US naval base in southeast of Cuba, as you can see in the map. These are also called as Gitmo prisons. This prison houses detainees whom the US suspected that they were involved with Al-Qaeda or the Taliban and were part of the terror plans. These are located in the southern part of Cuba. This place is out of the reach of international law or law of their own country, and even the US representatives of human rights are not allowed to meet the prisoners. They have been in the news in international media quite a lot for alleged violation of human rights of the prisoners or the detainees. Many organizations and members of civil society have raised their voice against the inhuman treatment of prisoners at these prisons. But still, the US continues to arrest many people in the name of the global war on terror. To conclude, let's summarize what we discussed in this part of the chapter. In this part, we discussed about the first Gulf War and how Iraq lost the war. We discussed about the US offensive on Yugoslavia. We also discussed about the attack that was carried on the US embassies in Nairobi and Dar es Salaam, and the attack on the World Trade Center, popularly known as 9/11. And we discussed towards the end the invasion of Afghanistan by the US to destroy Al-Qaeda and the killing of Osama bin Laden. In the next part of this chapter, we will discuss about the invasion of Iraq in 2003, once it happened in 1991 and later in 2003, and also the US as a structural hegemon. Till then, you can enjoy reading this part of the chapter. Thank you.